Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Dr. Jeff Riggenbach back here with you on another Tips Tuesday to bring you yet another tip on dealing with the difficult people in your life. This free social media series is based upon the content of my new book, Disarming High Conflict Personalities, dealing with the 8 most difficult people in your life before they drive you nuts. And if you don't have your tip sheet yet for having a difficult conversation, feel free to grab yours from the link out of the description at the bottom and get your tip sheet for having a difficult conversation in general. Top 10 tips. Today's tip for dealing with difficult people has to do with learning to speak their language. Learning to speak their language. If you tuned in, 2 trainings ago, we did a series on, a training on, I should say, on knowing us. Then last Tuesday, the training was on knowing them. And now today, we're getting to the whole point of knowing us and knowing them so that we can speak their language. Actually, in the book and the coaching material, I walk people through 5 questions, sort of a 5-step process for preparing to have those conversations with difficult people in our lives, whether they're in our personal life, whether they're in the workplace environment, wherever they may be. And those 5 questions are really keeping in mind who we are and who they are using our DISC model of human behavior that I've laid out in the previous videos. And so question number 1 simply asks, who am I? And so there's where you need to know if your primary style is a D, an I, an S, or a C. If you didn't get your DISC assessment taken in the first 2 videos, feel free to click the link. I have a link in the description for that. You can take one of my DISC assessments and know exactly what your style blend is. But first of all, know us. Am I a D? Am I an I? Am I an S or a C primarily? Then we're going to, the second question is, who are they? So the first question is, who am I? The second question is, who are they? Where are they on that DISC model, in our 4-quadrant model? So question number 1, who am I? Question number 2, who are they? Question number 3 is, who are they to me? Okay, so here we're asking ourselves to who are they to me? So knowing who I am, how do I view them uniquely? Okay, so number 1, who am I? Number 2, who are they? Number 3, who are they to me? Number 4, who am I to them? Okay, and so here we're asking you to use some good old-fashioned empathy. Kind of put yourself in their shoes and knowing what style they primarily are, how might they view you? So number 1, who am I? Number 2, who are they? Number 3, who are they to me? Number 4, who am I to them? And then number 5, probably the most important, based upon the first 4, how do I need to alter or adjust what I might naturally say based upon my style? Our personality influences everything, including the language, just what I call in the book, the autopilot language, just sort of comes out of our mouth automatically before we learn to adjust. How do I learn to adjust that to speak in a way, to talk in a way that others will actually listen to me, in a way that I'm speaking their language? Okay, so for instance, if, and in the book and in the training materials for the training programs that I do, I've got the whole kind of graph outlined out. So I got it in table form, I should say. So if you're a D, for instance, how do you need to talk to an I? How do you need to talk to an S? How do you need to talk to a C? If you're an I, how do you best talk with a D? How do you best talk with an S? How do you best talk with a C, etc.? And I cover all of those combinations. So we're obviously not going to take the time to do that here in this short free training that's part of this social media series. But just to give you an idea what we're talking about, let's pretend that I am a D. And if I say, who am I? I am a D. Who are they? Let's pretend I'm talking to an S. Okay, so who am I? A D. Who are they? An S. Who are they to me? So if I'm a D, I think of S as how? I think of S's as maybe a little bit of pushover. I think of yes as maybe, too talkative. They talk too much. They don't get enough done. They spend too much time chit-chatting, and they need to get down to business. Who am I to them? Question number 4. If they're an S, how are they viewing me as a D? and they're probably going to view me as a little overbearing, a little, maybe somebody who lacks empathy, maybe somebody who lacks compassion. Okay. And so then number 5, how do I need to adapt how I would naturally communicate? Well, if I'm a D, I'm naturally going to be pretty direct, right? Pretty direct. That's what a D is. It's one of the D words, direct. And so if I know that I'm talking to an S, or when we get into the difficult personality types, very extreme versions of an S, I know I'm going to need to soften what I have to say quite a bit. And so I will need to adjust differently as a D when I am talking to different groups of people. So if I'm a D and I'm talking to an I, or working with an I, or managing an I going to know I'm going to need to make it a little more fun for them than might be part of my natural flair, part of my natural personality. I'm going to have to go out of my way to come up with employee recognition. Give them recognition in ways that I maybe wouldn't just think of naturally. If I'm dealing with an S, I'm going to need to communicate some sort of compassion, some sort of, even if it's before I start the meeting, I'm probably not just going to open up and start talking about my feelings and some big extreme, sort of swing the other way. That's number 1, a waste of time, and number 2, way out of character. But it may just be something as simple as say, "Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody had a nice weekend." That's more than some D's do, and at least the S will feel a little bit comforted by that. Even if the agenda is pretty short, there's not much to it, and I think it's a waste of time, if I've got some C's in there that are pretty strong, I may need to go out of my way just to spend 5 or 10 minutes and type up the agenda ahead of time and email it to the C so they know the order. They know what to expect. They know the meeting they're coming into and can follow the agenda items. And so obviously it's going to require different adjustments from where you are. Again, that's why it's important that you know you. You can take that assessment in the link below if you haven't already and make sure that you know you, because that's your home base. That's what you are adjusting from. Now, I had somebody ask in between last video and this video, they said, well, which ones are the difficult ones? It's the D's, right? The lady said the D's, the difficult ones, right? Isn't that what D stands for? D for difficult? and no, and we're going to get to that. You may remember, if you saw some of the earlier videos in this training series, we had 5 specific characteristics of what makes a person difficult. To review, they were easily triggered, they had extreme thinking, they felt intense emotions, they had inflexible behaviors, and they had lack of awareness. But each of the 4 styles has their own specific types of extreme thinking and difficult behaviors to deal with. So extreme, sort of out of control versions of D's can be difficult. Out of control versions of I's can be difficult. Out of control versions of S's look different, but they can be difficult. And C's can also have their out of control, sort of difficult versions of that personality style. So it's not just one style that's a difficult person. And if you find yourself in a style that's at odds with another, okay, an I, for instance, is exactly opposite of the C and doesn't have anything in common with it, doesn't have the outgoing trait, or it doesn't have the people-oriented trait, then they're going to seem more difficult to us. But if they're more extreme versions, then this is when we're getting into our difficult people. So difficult people can fit into any of the 4 categories. But as we get better at knowing us, reading other people, then we can learn to adapt. We learn to recognize their style better. We can learn to sort of match that style. In the book, I talk about the research behind mirror neurons and how it's beneficial for us to mirror other people's communication style. I mean, you can even tell from something as simple as emails or even sometimes texts. You can tell from a text somebody else's style. I actually went through some of my recent texts and just looked at, anytime I had an agreement to get together with somebody, whether it was a supervision meeting with my interns, whether it was maybe it was a lunch date, or maybe it was meeting my sister across town for a family deal, or, there's a number of different examples in there, and just looked at the responses. And the D's were saying things like, "See you then," 3 words, quick and to the point. And oftentimes the, the C accidentally had 3 or 4 E's, or maybe there's another word misspelled, even in that 3-word phrase that the D probably didn't even notice, or if they did, they sure didn't take the time to go back and fix. The I was more see you then, and maybe it was a C, and maybe it was the letter U, and maybe there was 3 exclamation points or smiley face emoji, or you could almost feel the emotion through the text. And the S's usually said more than just see you then. They usually said things like, oh, it'll be great to catch up, can't wait to see you, these kinds of things. And then the C usually just said see you then, very formally, oftentimes had a period, it was punctuated, nothing was misspelled. And so oftentimes, even in these very basic communications, we can pick up a person's style and then we can mirror that to speak their language. The D doesn't want some big flowery 3-sentence long return text. On the other side, the S may just be rubbed the wrong way if the D simply responds with a thumbs up, or maybe it's just a Y for yes. And they're thinking, well, boy, that was, that was kind of cold. It's just this letter Y. And it's not a big deal. It's just a small thing. But D's are going to get annoyed with the rambling on. And oh my gosh, just get to the point. And yeah, the S even has a feelings hurt a little bit just by the letter or the emoji. And so even in the subtle details, we can pick up on this. And so these are the kinds of things that we go into in much more depth in the book, and certainly in the coaching programs, how to very specifically adapt, how to adapt how we would naturally communicate based upon our style to match the specific style of the person that we're talking to very strategically speak their language. So I hope that tip was helpful for you. Hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you back here again next Tuesday. In the meantime, take care.